Tobago on Tobago Updates, viewers. I just want to quickly apologize though for that little break in our transmission, but we are back and up and running, and we are here with former Assemblyman Max James as we discuss what's been happening in the political space as we get ready for general elections 2025. Now, as we prepare, we've seen that MPs Shampaka Joe Lewis and Ayanna Westeroy, they're both going back for a third term in office. What do you think about their chances?
Well, if we were to use Sunday's meeting as a reasonable template,
and the TPP meeting you're speaking about,
yes, and when they presented the two candidates, it gives a good indication as to where the minds of Tobagonians are in respect of the elections soon to come. I think it was a seminal moment where, in spite of what you might have been hearing in the contrary, that there is considerable belief in the Chief Secretary and his team, or the political leader, Fali Augustine, and his team. So it indicates that Tobagonians have not lost faith, and perhaps we could dare say increase their faith in respect of the offerings of the TPP. In respect of the incumbents, that is Kojo and Webster Roy, we can say thanks for their service. I think that over 10 years, the critical issue for Tobagonians, or two critical issues for Tobagonians, that is the reform, constitution reform, and a greater level of funding. It is clear, without any argument, it's an oxymoron as we call it, that they have not done what was necessary for Tobago. Funding is a critical issue, and or autonomy is a critical issue. I don't think that they can be in any position to defend their stewardship, having not delivered in respect of those two critical areas. And I think that I think even their followers would agree with that assessment, that after 10 years, we're basically still where they started.
All right, and then looking ahead to the TPP, we finally saw the launch of the Tobago West candidate in the form of Assemblyman Joe Sampson. What are your views on him being selected after, almost 6 weeks of deliberation as to who should go up and who should represent the party for the West District?
Well, I'm hardly the best person to answer that question for obvious reasons. But what I can say is that it is what it is, and the political leader is calling on all of us to support this election. Now, I have nothing against Mr. Sampson. I think he's a very likable person. That's obvious to see. And this election ultimately, where you couldn't quarrel too much with his choice. He's very much loved. And I think if you extrapolate that to the Plymouth area, buttressed by Ms. Hackett, and the Bethel area, and even the Golden Lane area, I think he can come home with the seat. And therefore, I'm really confident if we can capture those 4 areas, which I think could happen, I think that the seat is winnable. He seems to be a very fast learner. And of course, every candidate, you're not going to find the best things in every candidate or what you're looking for in every candidate. But I think at this stage of Tobago's political progress and development, we will have to support the move. I do support the move, although I had other choices, obviously. But that's water under the bridge. And the two areas, as I outlined, the critical areas of increased parliamentary allocation, and of course the autonomy issue. I think that he should be in a position to prosecute those two areas, because in many areas, if you listen to his debates in the House, he's a firebrand kind of a guy, right? And therefore, I think he could perform well. I honestly do believe that he can perform well. And for whatever the shortcomings of the party, all parties have the shortcomings, right? All of them have the little bits of quarrel here, internecine squabbling. But at the end of the day, I think he will do well and bring home the seat, and I'm confident that that is going to happen.
Now, when we listened to the Chief Secretary and, of course, the leader of the TPP speak on Sunday, the conversation wasn't just about needing to get autonomy, it wasn't just about needing to get more from the national budgetary allocation. He also went into there are powers within the current THA Act that the THA is not allowed to, capitalize on. For instance, like the town and country and a lot of these other issues. You saw the Chief Secretary said, in the messages to both Mr. David Thomas and Joel Sampson, that you all are going down there to also make sure Tobagonians sit on the right boards and so on. What do you think about that call being made by Mr. Augustine?
Well, I think more could have been done, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And I'm not necessarily criticizing, but critiquing, if you will, that more could have been done. In our time, we just did it, mm-hmm. And we did it against the great Basil Pandey and Kamala predecessor when they were in power. At that time, town and country is a matter under the 5th schedule. Just do it. I think more could have been done, but the call nevertheless goes out, and I think that to make it pellucid, those two representatives, once they get in, what I think they will, those things should be the first call. I don't, until you can get the entire act or the new act or the new bill passed in Parliament, which is going to be another piece of challenge. There are bits and pieces of legislation that can be put on the table for amendment. While that may be happening, the gringo in me and in us at the time, we will just do it. We will begin to do our own plans and approvals of plans and housing applications and so forth. And just do it, mm-hmm. and let's see where it goes. Because we did it, and there was no big upset about it. The government at the time capitulated, and they knew that it was within our ambit to do. So that is how I would argue that particular case. Just do it.
Now we see there are other parties, of course, going to be fielding candidates. We know for sure PDP. IDA, the Patriotic Front, and we may have a couple more people coming on board, and of course we'll see for certain by April 4th. But when we listened to the PDP on Monday, when they unveiled that Mr. Curtis Douglas is going to go for the West constituency, and of course Mr. Duke for the East, Mr. Duke put forward an interesting stance in this whole matter. He said that, if he wins, he's going to use his seat as a bargaining chip to basically become prime minister and lead certain parts of the government so that Tobago gets what it needs. What are your views on that?
There's nothing in that. I mean, it is the same thing that will happen if David Thomas or Mr. What's his name again? Nazi. Mm-hmm. When they win the seats, Tobago will, because remember, there'll be 39 candidates for the UNC in Trinidad. The PDM, of course, is fielding their 41. And so Tobago naturally will or can become a bargaining chip in respect of where they're going to lend their support.
So are you saying that the TPP is looking towards a partnership?
No, I'm not saying.
Okay.
These are my personal views. Right, so let me just state, these are my personal views. I'm not speaking on behalf of the TPP, although I support the TPP. but I'm not speaking officially on behalf of the TPP. So I want to make that very clear. The fact of the matter, though, is that what I'm assessing what has happened or what is likely to happen. And I'm suggesting where you have 39 candidates on the UNC side and you have 2 in Tobago, given the history of this matter, PNM versus Tobago, and UNC's involvement in the politics of Trinidad and Tobago, quite naturally, the seats will give their support to the UNC. It is an oxymoron. It goes without saying. In any event, the PNM has always said, through the former leader, deceased leader Patrick Manning, they have always said they will lose alone, they will go out of power alone, all right, and then come back alone, something like that. So that they're not going to be interested anyway of forming an amalgamation with the TPP, should the TPP win the 2 seats next month. But I'm suggesting that, of course, Tobago should use the 2 seats as a bargaining chip to get what we want. Whoever wins those seats, I don't for one moment suspect or believe that Mr. Duke would win the seat, the Tobago seat. But it becomes like a sort of a spoiler where the votes can be split. And if the votes are split very deeply, you may run the risk of having the PNM go back into power again. And that's my only fear, because you are now having a number of parties lined up against the PNM and likely to split the votes. So I think what the political leader of the TPP and the TPP should be focused a very, very deep and a very robust ground campaign explaining the dangers of voting for the other parties, in spite of what you think of the TPP, in spite of your quarrels with them. All parties have made mistakes. The former prime minister has made colossal mistakes. Even look at his last utterance when the airport was opened. He began addressing the chief secretary by his first name in a very derogatory manner. He's a very disrespectful human being. And then he was suggesting that we should embrace sandals. Well, I saw the chief secretary push back on that a few days ago. But if anyone goes on the internet and look at the reputable sites, you will now see where Sandals is suggesting that they're going to sell the franchise. So here you have a former prime minister saying, embrace Sandals, while at the same time, and he has the intelligence. When I say intelligence, he has the knowledge of the facts. That's what I mean. So that intelligence on the ground is on the internet, where Sandals is likely to give up the franchise. Sandals. So who are we going to embrace? So why is the former prime minister behaving like that? Why is the PNM behaving like that? You're trying to foist something on Tobagonians, which you didn't manage properly in the first place, and then you're saying, let's embrace. So you've seen a level of dirty political behavior, trying to force the hand of Tobagonians, when the prime minister of Tobagonian birth spent 10 years and did not give us the 2 critical things that we need in Tobago. And he should be ashamed to suggest what he's suggesting to the chief secretary. He should be ashamed to come back here and to say anything to Tobagonians, because he as a Tobagonian should have known that he had to leave a proper legacy, the legacy that I gave you the autonomy. I give you an improved parliamentary allocation. And that would have settled the thing.
But what are the realistic chances this time around? And we only got like 2 minutes left. So in that 2 minutes, just tell me what are the realistic chances this time around to go over that process? How can we see it happen again? How can we see that bill come forward, or a bill come forward again that matches, and how long would that take?
The UNC is on record of being amenable to an increased parliamentary allocation and autonomy for Tobago. I think what will make that come about is to win the two seats. And I think Tobagonians, once those issues, and much more than those two major issues, once those things are properly explained to Tobagonians in a very sober but profound way, once those areas are really addressed with the population, they can see hope. Because again, just to repeat, the UNC is on record of supporting autonomy. The UNC is on record of supporting an improved and increased allocation for Tobago. I think that what we have to do now is to do the work and ensure that those two seats are won in the next elections.
All right, great one. And thank you so much, Mr. James, for being on with us and for giving us your perspective. And we are looking forward to what's going to be happening for the rest of this month. Well, the rest of the 4 weeks leading up to elections. All right. So thank you again. And viewers, we got to go for a break, but we'll be back right after this.